Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lights Too Bright podcast. Today, I have a colleague who, for me, was really interesting because she asked if she could come on. And so that was a first for me. And I'm honored that she's actually listening to the pod. And she's got a great story. I've met Francesca a couple of times and we've probably spent less than a couple of hours together, but we know each other through friends, through colleagues, optometry being a really, really small space that it is. So I would like to even introduce you to Francesca Marchetti. Hey, Francesca, how are
I'm
you?
great, really good. I've had a wee day off today.
So, well, from what you said before I started recording, it looks like there's a lot of days off happening
Yes,
between.
but this week's a busy week. I am doing a 5-day week this week, which is quite unusual for me. So I really embraced my day off, got loads of jobs done. I was kind of on a tight schedule of everything I needed to do, and I've managed to complete everything. So I've ticked loads of things off my list. I feel really good about myself now, ready for my day.
Now you can sit in the sun
Yeah,
and have something to have.
yeah, maybe a wee rosy white.
That's really not actually. That leads really quite nicely into what I'm first going to ask you, Francesca. So, what exactly do you do? What is your current role?
Right. Now I'm probably doing a lot less than I have done over the years, but I'm really happy to be in that position. I'm working for independent optometry locally in Warwickshire and in Worcestershire. I'm working for a new lovely independent practice which only opened a year ago. So I'm helping them build up their clientele and their practice. I work in a very well established practice in Warwick. I also work for a very quirky independent in Bromsgrove, and I do a little bit of work at Midland Eye, at Aston University. So I've got fingers in lots of pies.
So, for those, I mean, I know you, Francesca, and we've had this conversation, but for those who don't know you, are like a self-employed locum? Do you have your own little business?
So
How exactly
I'm just going
would
to
you
stop you
consider
there.
yourself?
I hate the word locum. I
Okay.
absolutely detest it because nobody ever wants to see the locum. And I always describe myself as a self-employed independent optometrist, and I'm very proud to say that I do that. And when I speak to people and I say, "Oh, where do you work?" Two things happen. They usually put their hand on my arm and they'll say, "I'm just a locum." Nobody ever says, "I'm a locum." I'm just a locum, and I hate that because as a locum, as a self-employed independent optometrist, you are as good as a consultant optometrist, you are as good as a lead optometrist, you are as good as a resident optometrist, you're as good as a hospital optometrist. So it's really, really important that you actually justify who you are and not just say, "I'm just a locum."
No one should be just anything,
No.
to be honest. It was interesting you bring up consultant optometrist. I had a conversation with a couple of people about that term, and it's like, what exactly is a consultant optometrist? It's a hospital term, I believe, that was created for hospital optometrists from a banding perspective.
Right.
But the GOC college, as far as I'm aware, don't recognise the term as a consultant optometrist, and there's only a few in the country. So I mean, that's quite interesting. But I do like that. I think no one should be just anything. You have your role, and hopefully you're proud of the role that you were in,
Very proud of my profession.
wherever, yeah, whichever setting you're in. And I mean, if you're not proud of it, then maybe you should be looking
Even
for other opportunities
exactly.
to make you proud. So let's start at the beginning, Francesca. So where are you from? Because that's not a Midlands accent.
No, although I've lived in the Midlands longer than I've lived in Scotland. So
Really?
after graduating, because I was one of the typical West of Scotland optometrists, I ended up, or ophthalmic opticians as we were called back then, I ended up going away from my pre-reg year because I'd never lived away from home, and I thought, I'll go away for a year, and I never went back. So that's how I've ended
So were
up.
you in
I
Glasgow?
was
Were
in
you a graduate of
Glasgow. I
Glasgow?
studied in Glasgow. So I did a 4-year degree at Glasgow, and And then I moved down to work for Doland and Aitchison, as it was then, because they were the biggest
Okay.
optometrists or opticians back in the day. And their success rate for passing pre-regs and everything were just second to none. So that's why that was my main criteria. I want to work for DNA. I don't really care where it is, but I do want to move away from Glasgow. So that's how I started off. And then I worked.
And okay.
And then
why optometry?
Why optometry? Probably a little bit like a lot of people. I thought I wanted to do medicine, and I did my O grades, as they're called in Scotland, and realised I had been obviously far too busy partying and hadn't quite got the results that I needed to even apply.
Something's never changed.
Something never changed. And I didn't even have the results to apply for medicine. So I started kind of looking around because I really liked all that kind of stuff and I loved biology and everything. And I ended up applying for dentistry and I ended up applying for ophthalmic optics and was chosen for both and was accepted to do dentistry at Edinburgh and kind of tossed a coin and thought, I'll do ophthalmic optics. And so that's how I got into it. And within a week, I thought, this is my job. This is the Vicar's knickers, the Padres pantalones. I'm so glad I never became a medic. I am absolutely delighted I never became a dentist. And I have never looked back.
That is fantastic. It's interesting. More people I talk to, optometrists are really proud of being optometrists.
Hugely.
Who I would say really at the, top end of their game. Not many of them went into it. They weren't 7-year-olds going, I want to be an optometrist. It's something that almost stumbled upon, but once they've been in it, they found their niche, their love, their little bit of, the thing that really inspires them to help people, and they've been able to really make the most of their career. So which whereabouts in England did you end up with DNA?
Coventry. I was sent to Coventry and I did my pre-reg there, and then I really wanted to go back to Glasgow after my pre-reg, and they said, look, we're really, really short-staffed. Would you work for us for a year as a mobile and we'll send you back to Scotland every so often, which is exactly what they did do. And I worked with them as a mobile. So I would go as far north as Loughborough. I would go as far south as Oxford. I'd go as far east as Peterborough. I'm not quite sure how far west I would go. So, back in the day.
And then how long were you with the DNA then?
I was with them until 1992. So I'm going to say I was with them for 8 years. And then when I then subsequently got married, I met my husband and there was no way I was going back to Scotland. And then we were pregnant with our first child. And I just thought, I don't want to go back and have to work full time. And all the part-time working wasn't really an option because things are so different. And that's when I became self-employed.
Okay, so 33 years.
To go.
32 years. Wow.
32 years. Also, my husband was opening a business, so I wanted to work for him.
So just for the audience, your husband is also an optometrist?
He is, yep. A retired optometrist now.
So he's a man of leisure.
Yes, and I'm keeping him in the style he's been accustomed to.
He's accustomed to. Fantastic. I pray I wish for those days. I'm wishing for those days.
I'm saying that he does a lot of work for his LOC and he's doing a lot of stuff for the NHS with the EERS, but in fact, because he's now not at the coalface and he's not running a business, he's got the time and energy to devote to that. So he's doing a much better job on both of those fronts that he would say than he's ever done. But yeah, I'm going out to work and I'm coming home and my dinner is made. It's wonderful.
Fantastic. With being a self-employed independent practitioner.
Yes.
How have you, I've been there, so I understand, I know it a little bit, but how do you find it is to kind of maintain professional development? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you find you have to be a lot more self-motivated?
I do, but I'm what would you, I mean, I do a lot of lecturing and I do a lot of talking and I love attending conferences. I'm such a people person. So I love going to conferences and especially going up to the Glasgow Eye Care one, because for me it's like a university reunion. It's like spot the person I don't know. So I think by doing all of that, I don't feel I need the motivation because I love doing that. Where I do struggle with is sitting doing something online, doing a CPD thing online, watching a virtual lecture. I'm not good at any kind of stuff like that. I'm a kinesthetic person. I want to be in a workshop and I want hands-on and I want to chat to people and I want to say, right, going for a drink, going for a coffee after this finishes. I want all of that. So I don't find it difficult to motivate myself.
Yeah, and so COVID must have been tough. The aftermath of COVID must have been tough. I sometimes get a little bit. So I did a bit of time in the States, and I sometimes feel that optometrists in the UK don't really have a great appreciation for conferences. So we don't really have a conference culture,
Right.
and I think that's a shame because Brian, you've known Brian longer
Yeah,
than
yeah.
I have, but you know how you can learn stuff without having to be in a CPD lecture.
Yeah.
You will learn stuff
Over a coffee.
just by having a coffee.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Over.
Sitting at the bar
Yeah.
and doing things like that. And so I think it's a shame. I really do hope that people do get more into it. I don't know how to promote that. I don't know how we can, maybe just hearing people say what great conferences are and the benefits of it. I think there is a too much of a thought process that conferences are just kind of a CPD event
Yeah. And I,
rather than being a
yeah.
networking, meet people as well as learning.
But don't you think some of that is part of the culture of people, even my daughters, they'll say, oh, yeah, I was chatting to so and so. And I'm saying, were you actually chatting to them or were you just messaging? Because the whole face to face culture, I think that COVID really hit that. I was desperate to get back in touch with people face to face. And lots of people are thinking, I feel I've died and gone to heaven. This is just perfect. I did talk during COVID, and it was labelled. It was sponsored by a company, and it was lost as a locum. And I think certainly self-employed independent optometrist, but that didn't roll off the tongue quite as easy as lost as a locum. They were really lost, because people who were in business still had to run their business. They still had to look after their staff. And it really made me realise how much being an optometrist defined me as a person. And that was quite scary, actually, because I always thought, yeah, and I'd do this and do that. But actually, when I wasn't being an optometrist, I felt like my right arm had been cut off. And that was really interesting. And speaking to other practitioners the same as me, we that were passionate about our profession felt exactly the same. And those are the kind of people that are like straight on their early bird tickets, straight on to a conference. But I think the world is quite divided, and I don't feel that that is just to do with optometry. I think it's the same within any medical profession. I was just away with some GPs recently, and they were saying the same kind of scenario.
I think particularly with our profession, it's quite tough to not be a people person
Yes.
because I mean GPs, yeah, 15 minutes. We're the same.
Yeah.
Depending on the practice you're in and the model they work, you could be seeing someone every 20 minutes to an hour, again depending on the model.
Yeah.
And if you're not a people person, that's hard.
Well,
To sit there and try and maintain conversation, if nothing else.
well, see, that's where I think the world can be a little bit divided. So there are a lot of practitioners out there. It's one or two, in or out, red or green, Bob's your uncle, your auntie, and your granny, and off you go. Okay? I am not like that. Why am I always running behind? because it's all about the chit chat. And oh my God, I love your shoes. Where'd you get your shoes? And oh, you've been out for dinner and you're going out for lunch after this, which is all building up rapport. It's all about learning about your patients or your clients or however you like to call them. And so I do think there are a lot of optometrists out there who they're fine in the consulting room because they don't really have to be a people person. It's the one or two in or out, red or green, Bob's your uncle. It's all again about learning at work. It's learning the chit chat over a coffee in the staff room, learning about when you're running a bit behind and you're having to just chat to someone because they're a wee bit upset, they've been waiting for a long time, just chatting. And all of that makes you a better person, makes you a better optometrist. And I think the great
Wouldn't you
optometrists,
say that? No, go on.
I think the great optometrists are the ones that are very much people, persons, people.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that's why,
But I
you're in a
think,
practice where,
and this has come with,
sorry, you're in a practice where you're with patients for a long period of time. It's all about the chit chat because that's what your patients want, your clients want. It's what you want. It's what I want. It's what my clients want.
but when I first qualified, if someone said to me, I was at a multiple, and we had a high emphasis on conversion and trying to sell spectacles, and that there's nothing wrong with that model if that's the model that you're in, and that's how your business survives. But I found now that just by talking to people, just nice conversation is how you can learn about someone and then give them the best recommendations. So then, based on their lifestyle, you can make an honest recommendation, which then they feel that they've got value out of that. So if they do need to purchase sunglasses, contact lenses, that kind of stuff, they're more inclined to feel that they've been heard. And I think that comes from trying to build a relationship, build a bridge between yourself and that patient, finding common ground. And I think when I was a pre-reg, if someone had said, look, build these bridges and the recommendations will come naturally. And with that, the conversion into some sort of sale will come with it without having to kind of push it, which I felt when I was younger was more the emphasis. There was a big emphasis on, right, you need to sell specs, they have to have coatings, and without really understanding the benefits of coatings, which, I wouldn't sell anyone a spectacle now without
No,
coatings. People come in and they're like, well, I don't want coatings. I'm saying that you do want coatings because you
because you
don't know what you've
believe in
got.
the product and you know how good it is for them.
Yes. But that again comes from building rapport. So, asking someone how nice their shoes are is a great way, because then you just learn things. And it also, for me, it made it a lot more fun. But you're right, there are some people who are quite happy to sit on their phoropter and go bang, 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 out you go.
And sit on their phones between eye examinations instead of being out schmoozing and chatting. And, I always love to see what my patients have chosen, and I'll always say, now don't leave the practice without me having a look, and all of that. I mean, any practice I work in, as a self-employed independent optometrist, I'm paid a flat fee. That's it. Doesn't matter if I sell no glasses or 20 pairs of glasses. I work there as if it's my name above the door and it's my reputation that's at stake. But that's me, the
And
way I am.
that's why you're a popular person to have in the building, because you go in and you make yourself part of the team.
Absolutely.
I probably imagine you go in and go, oh, I'm having a cup of tea. Who else wants a cup of tea? And I suspect you probably even know how many milk and sugars
Yeah.
everyone has,
Yeah.
Francesca. So what would you say are the biggest pros to being self-employed independent practitioner?
Well, certainly for me, first of all, it was helping my husband with his business. Okay, so I really
Okay.
felt that I could help and support him by me working a little bit less, which allowed him to work much longer hours because we had a young family. And as I said, at the time, there was no option of part time work. So that was definitely the first thing. Then I applied to go on to the college council, and I absolutely massive imposter syndrome, had never done anything like that before. And then I just took off like a 747. And then everything else that's happened to me since then has really been because of that. And I could only ever have done that because I was self-employed, which meant when I did a day with the college, although I wasn't paid to do that day, I would work my work days around it. And then from the college, I then joined the AOP. I then became a board member of the AOP. I've been on the LOC. It has allowed my career to be multifactorial. I've done so many things within my optometric career that now I'm like very happy to do what I'm doing now, because I feel I'm in the autumnal years of my career. I haven't done any IP or higher quals, which I think 20 years ago I would have done. And again, being self employed, I would have had the time to devote to that and not be saying to my boss, can I take 3 days off and can I do this and can I do that? But I just feel being self employed, as long as you're not just chasing the dollar, because a lot of people are self employed just for that reason, and making sure that when you are self-employed, you're still a team player. Go to the Christmas do if you're invited. That is fantastic. It shows that you feel very much part of your team. A lot of practices don't invite their locums because they don't feel their locums are part of the team. So I think there are huge pros and cons. There's obviously a little bit of financial insecurity. I am dropped. We've not got any patients booked in today, or we've only got half a day's clinic, and also, if you don't work, you don't earn. So when you have a day off, you're usually meeting a friend for a coffee, or you're going out for a lunch or an afternoon tea. So not only are you not earning money, you're spending money. And the same when you go on holiday. So although it looks great that you're getting this daily rate, when you're not working, there's zero daily rate.
Would you say that's the biggest con of being a locum, self-employed,
Not the biggest, I
independent
mean,
optometrist?
also, certainly if you're chasing the dollar, you're happy just to go wherever that's going to pay the big bucks. And I have worked in practices where, well, this is quite a sad story, really. My brother was very ill, and he lived down on the south coast, and it was all kind of during COVID. And the only way I could kind of go and see him unofficially was I would go and do a locum week down on the south coast, which was a very big earner, I have to say, because they just couldn't get any locums. But if I'd said to my brother, I want to come and stay with you, I want to come and see you, he'd say, no, 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 I'm fine and everything. And I'll say, well, oh, such and such a practice fast, if I can come and work for the week. Yeah, that's fine. So we did all the COVID stuff and we would have dinner together every night. I was desperately lonely, desperately lonely. Nobody wanted to talk to me really, because they thought, oh, here's another locum chasing the dollar. They're only
Gun for
interested in
hire.
being here for the week. They're not interested in being part of the team here. And I would try and engage with people in conversation in the staff room at lunchtime. Anybody want a coffee? I'm going down to Costa. If I had a right hand woman, man, that was my DO, I'm right, you're my, we're the gruesome twosome. What do you want? Which Costa do you want? And they were all like, oh my God, nobody's done this before. And at the end of the week, I was desperately lonely in a work situation. Obviously, because my brother was so ill for the best part of 9 months, I did actually keep going up and down, and they were wonderful. And soon I was very much part of their team, and they're now still messaging me going, will you come back for a week? Like, no. So I think that can be a massive con as far as being a self-employed independent optometrist. It can be quite lonely. Certainly, I mean, I was going back to my brother's house every night, but if you're doing the residential ones where you're staying in an Airbnb or a hotel room, it can be really lonely.
We see, and the industry talks about it, about optometrists not wanting to have resident roles and dropping into independent provider roles a lot sooner. Do you feel, having had all of the experience that you have had, that it makes sense to drop into that role almost pretty much as soon as you've qualified?
I would say absolutely,
Or would you
categorically
say
not. Absolutely not. I would say to, and any time I'm talking at the university and I'm talking to pre-regs, their an aspiration is to be a locum. That is an aspirational role within the world of optometry. Whereas when I was, pre-reg, it was like having your own business, being lead optometrist, being a resident optometrist, getting 1 day a week at the hospital, very different vibe. And I would say, that first 3 years, it's a bit like when you first pass your driving test. It's when you make all your mistakes and you really learn to drive. You make all your mistakes in the first 3 years. You see the rechecks. You get those bunches of flowers as a thank you, or boxes of chocolate. You get to deal with the stroppy patient. You get where you've really messed up. You get where you've get so much gratitude. You never get that when you don't have that continuity of care. And that 3 years where maybe you've seen that wee girl coming in at 5 years old with her eyes like this, and she's been under the hospital, and you've seen her go from 6, 18, 6, and wee red glasses and just getting cuter by the month. That is so fulfilling, and I still have such fond memories of those years when I first qualified. I was an employee
that's
for 8 years, but I would say give yourself a good 3 years, be part of a team, learn how to work as a team, learn management skills, learn people skills. You'll never get that if you're like bopping here and bopping there. And because obviously with the IR35, you can't be in regular practices all the time.
yeah. And I think it's a shame that people do chase the money. I can understand why people do it. It's different, when we were graduates, we were fortunate enough to have things like student loans and didn't have to pay tuition. And I guess people do worry about that. But the experience you get from being in one place, and even being in a situation where you have someone in the room next door to you or across the corridor from you just to bounce ideas
Yes.
and ask for opinion and offer opinion,
Yes.
can really help grow you professionally, improve your experiences, and you learn how to manage things. But we're at 30 minutes, Francesca. We're doing really well. I want to sidestep slightly
Yes.
because you dropped in ever so quickly without, you fired it in there how you became a college member,
Yep.
college counselor,
Counselor.
and you had a bit of imposter syndrome was the term you
Yes.
used.
Yes.
And so how did that come about, and why did it come about? Let's talk about the college. The other stuff
Yeah.
we can talk about
Well,
later.
I was nudged. I was nudged by a colleague to say, I think you should join College Council. I think you'd be great. I'm happy to support you. And, I'll hold your hand, because she was already a council member. She's now retired, Susan Bowers. So I have really my career to thank her
I know,
for,
Susan.
seriously, because she said, I think you should do it, Francesca. And I was like, oh, God, I said, no, 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 I think you should do it. So I did, and I just loved it. I loved getting all dressed up and getting on the train and going down to London. And, that's when I started to wear my trainers and carry my high heels in my handbag, which I still do now going to work. And then I just realised I loved doing that. I loved really giving back to the profession and really setting out standards and realising how difficult it was to get the rules and regulations and the guidance and all. I just loved it. And just, again, the diversity of colleagues I met from all over the 4 nations was just incredible. People that I came across that they would never be my pal. They would never be like somebody I would hang out with yet, but you'd go out for dinner as a crowd and you'd have the most interesting and stimulating conversation. Obviously, the bottom line is you have optometry in common, but just some people that I'm still friends with, and I think, you're living in Yorkshire or you're living in Southwest Wales. I'd never have met you, and my God, you have just brought so much to my life, professionally and socially. And then
Yeah.
that
And
gave me the
then
confidence when an AOP role came up. I thought, I'm going to apply to the AOP. And I was already on my LOC, so the two of those really helped one another. And then I became a spokesperson for my profession. I became chair of National Eye Health Week. I was interviewing Chris Evans on the telly and on the radio, and I was being quoted in the Telegraph and all the newspapers, and I just loved all that part of my life. And then in the last few years, I've been in a meeting and I've realised I have the lowest GOC number in the room, which meant I was the oldest person in the room, and I thought, I need to think about bowing out now. And so I did.
why? Why you have
Well, I
that
had,
wealth of experience?
yes, but I felt, well, I had done my full term of office on the college council and a little bit more than I should have done. And the AOP, I well outstayed my welcome, because when I joined the AOP, there you could be on there forever. And although you got voted on every 3 years, and then when Henrietta Alderman came on, she said, right, we need to revamp this council. It's too big, and people have been on there for like 20 years, and it was all very, should I say, male, white, male and stale, which did not represent our profession whatsoever. And, everybody was in agreement with that. So we revised the council. I was part of the committee to do that. And then everybody on council was up for re-election, and we went from having 4 seats in the West Midlands to 2. And I put my hat in the ring again, and very luckily I did get voted back on. And at that point they said, this is where the bar starts. Anything you've done before doesn't count. So, and I should I was already having been on there for about 8 years. So I then did another 9 years. So I outstayed my welcome there. But ready to go. No, ready to go. I do feel I was really happy with where the council was. I was really happy where the board was. And I just felt my job was done. I didn't feel I'd left any untied edges. I had a year to think, no, I'm bowing out here and I'm really happy to pass over the mantle. They still get in touch with me and say, oh, can we just run this past you, Francesca? And I think that's really good. And I want to spend more time in Italy. With my husband being retired, we own a home in Italy, in the village where my granny was born. Her house is 3 doors down from where my house is. And we want to spend more time in Italy, and I just can't do it all. And I can't spend as long as I'd like there because of Brexit and the Schengen rules. So that's why we're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah. Fine. I think that's fantastic, and it's a lovely journey.
What a beautiful journey.
I have 2 questions left.
Okay.
One question is, would you say you did what you did? Did it come about by luck? Did it come about by you being bored and wanting to try new things? Did it come about because you knew people? Or, like you said, Susan kind of encouraged you to take the college role. What kind of factors have kind of shaped your journey? Is it just, let me try something new?
I think there was a
What would you say shaped
slight
it?
element of that. There was never boredom. Boredom was never, ever part of that at all, at all, at all, at all. And I think I would have still been quite happy being in practice all the time if I hadn't then had a taste of what was on the other side by going on to the council, the college council. And then when I then saw other things coming up, I thought, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. To the point now, one of the things I loved about both the college and the AOP council is we had lay members on there. So I would love to now be a lay member of a council, but obviously, but nothing to do with optometry and nothing medical.
Yeah.
Maybe on the Council of Architects or Engineers or something like that, because those lay council members were amazing, just because they just spoke in plain English when we were going blah, 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 and then they go, could you just explain that a wee bit? So that's somewhere I'd quite like to go. So maybe in the autumn, after all my visits to Italy are finished, I'll get on the case about that.
Fantastic. Last question. What advice would you give a colleague, a peer, a new grad? Any advice, anything you want.
Don't be a locum straight away, because I've said that so many times. Just feel proud of your profession and love it, because it's fantastic. It's the best job to be in. Simple as that.
Thank you ever so much. That is amazing. Thank you, Francesca. That's been a great listen, and I've really enjoyed it, and I'm sure the audience will have.
Can I just say one more thing?
I'm going to end the... No, go on.
The reason I don't want to retire as well is I work under my maiden name, Francesca Marchetti. When I retire, I'll become Francesca Parks full time, and I don't want to do that.
What a lovely, lovely place to end. Thank you ever so much, and hopefully I will see you soon.
Yes, that'll be great.